Well, how did I get here? Ever wondered that one? How did I get here? I mean, on the deepest metaphysical level, not the fact that I entered this room and opened the blinds, turned on the ring light, which stands right in front of me, to allow this projected image on your screen to be illuminated, sat down, turned on the computer on. That's not what we're talking about, is it? It's the deep, fundamental philosophical, metaphysical question: how did I get here? Or let's put it this way: how did I appear to get here? Let's talk about that today. We have arrived at chapter 2 of the text. We've been through all of chapter 1. Now we're at chapter 2. And it's called the separation and the atonement. So we'll delve into both of those ideas: the idea of the separation, our perceived separation from God, with emphasis on the perceived, because it never actually happened, which is the atonement. It's our recognition that the separation never occurred. We'll delve into all of this. And today we're looking at the origins of separation. It's 5 paragraphs long, and as usual, there's so much material that we could cover that we're just going to hit the highlights of the first 3 today. So the origins of the separation, because we certainly appear to be individual self-sustaining survival units encased in this thing with a porous membrane that we've labeled skin, and this thing that we've labeled a physical body that's close to 80% water, and we've labeled ourselves Homo sapiens sapiens, anatomically modern, to distinguish ourselves from other species that appeared to come before us. We've labeled ourselves man, woman. We've labeled ourselves different generations. We've labeled ourselves by what we do for work here in the world, as parents, as single, as married, as whatever. Labels, and more labels. We appear to be separate from our brother, don't we? We are running around in similar looking things. And naturally, these ideas are going to invite us to see differently. That's the purpose of this whole course, is for us to change our perception. So how did this all appear to happen in the first place? Remember, the atonement, our acceptance of the atonement, is our recognition, our acceptance that the separation never occurred. This is something that we're going to repeat often, especially in this segment of the text. How did I get here? I'm not here. How'd you get here? You're not here either. Remember, the central teaching of A Course in Miracles is there is no world. This is a dream. These ideas are quite unacceptable to the ego. So be it. So be it. We've never separated from our source. Ideas leave not their source. We've never left our source. So how did we appear to be here? It's a very interesting question. And in discussing this, we're looking at some of the foundational principles of A Course in Miracles as a thought system, because that is manifestly what it is a thought system designed to help us clear all of the blockages to truth. First of all, God didn't create human bodies. I know the Bible seems to suggest otherwise, doesn't it? My Sunday school certainly seemed to suggest otherwise. And I was the kid that asked the question, wait a minute, if a loving God is really a loving God, then why would he create suffering? Why did he create suffering? Why did he create something that loses its vigor and disappears? I didn't get a satisfactory response, and maybe you can relate to this too from your own experience. I never got a satisfactory response to that. All I got was a series of blank stares and I mean, I forgive them, of course, right? Forgive all of our experience, but it didn't resonate with me. We're created perfect. Ideas leave not their source. God is perfect love. We're an extension of God, the thought of God, created perfect. 1 = 1. Let's do this verbal math. It's simple as can be, yet it's incredibly profound. You are created perfect. This is our reality that has always been there. No matter how much we may go forth and run and hide. And it's a very adult way of looking at all of our excess activity here in the world. It's running and hiding, it's delaying, it's paying attention to anything other than removing the blocks that we ourselves have imposed to truth, to the awareness of love's presence. It's very, very powerful stuff. So there's a fundamental difference between creation and projection. Creation is simply an extension. Love extends itself. God extends himself. It's joyous, it's natural. It's our natural state to create. And there's quite a difference between that and what we call projection. Projection takes place when we perceive a lack within ourselves. We're created perfect, absolutely perfectly, no lack at all. Yet we perceive a lack here in the world. We think we're missing something. We want more of something or less of something. We want to be anything other than what we are. And we believe erroneously, as it turns out, happily, it's an error, that we can fill this void that we ourselves have made with our own ideas and make it better. We think we can do a better job of creation than God, pretty much. And here in the very first part here of today's reading of the material, Jesus outlines 4 steps by which this process appears to take place. And step 1 is we believe, and again, in error, completely erroneously, that what God created can be changed by our own mind. How is that possible? How can we change what God created perfect, whole, loving, like himself, as himself, an extension of himself? How can we change that? We then go on to believe that what is perfect can be rendered imperfect. Ouch, right? Then what we go on to believe is that we can distort the creations of God, including ourselves. We can distort our miracle impulses, as we've talked about very recently here. And we go on to believe that we can create ourselves, and that the direction of our own creation is entirely up to us, that we can order our world and take God's place, pretty much. Ever think about it that way? Maybe, maybe not, right? We think we can order, manipulate, orchestrate, and arrange it all ourselves. And what do we have? We have a hot mess, don't we? We have a hot mess where we may actually arrange something by fumbling about in the darkness, because this is darkness, and attempting to rearrange everything. We might have it actually work out for a little bit. We might have a hot, sexy weekend lover. We might have a lot of money right now in this lifetime. We may have just bought a fancy car or a fancy boat or a nice new fancy posh house in a really, really nice part of town. Maybe we've bought a second home on the beach. I don't know. Right? Sometimes it appears to work out, but it never lasts. We cannot create ourselves. You did not create yourself, nor did I create myself. When we attempt to order everything here in the world, it goes awry. We have discord and conflict. Anytime that you feel that this is very difficult to comprehend, and there may very well be some moments like that on the path, it's perfectly normal in studying this material to pause sometimes and think, God, can that really be true? Can we really have it so wrong? Yes, we can. And we do. So we need correction at the level of the mind. Enter this course, enter spiritual practice, right? If you're ever feeling that this material isn't going down, I invite you again to come back to the summary of A Course in Miracles, that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Also, the statement that ideas leave not their source. They may appear, and we may believe that we have left our source to be encased in this thing, but that's not true. It isn't true. And what shows us this is our own practice, our own extension of miracles, our own giving the miracle to our brother. That's what our experience shows us experientially, that these ideas are true. So we've never left our source. This does mean that the separation that appears to have happened never happened. Ideas leave not their source. Now, the text goes on to describe this perceived separation as a detour into fear, and it doesn't exist. Again, let's remind ourselves that love extends itself and only itself. Love, perfect love, does not extend hatred, does it? It doesn't sow division. It doesn't sow discord. It doesn't divide. It doesn't subdivide. It doesn't classify and categorize or create hierarchies. Love is love, like the t-shirts say. Really, on a metaphysical level, how true is that? It's very true. It's the truth. Love extends itself. Sounds obvious, doesn't it? We need the obvious on the path, because we are the ones that complicate everything, all of it unnecessarily. So paragraph 3, very, very interesting, goes on to talk about the mythological Garden of Eden. Total metaphor, of course. Now, there are people in the world that behave as though this is not a metaphor. I have lots of Sunday school moments. Remember, I have lots of stories about, well, people believing that a metaphor truly, actually, physically took place. Remember, there is no world. There is no garden out with walls or a hedge around it and something outside of it. There's no separation of any kind, right? Right? So what do we mean here by the Garden of Eden? Well, it's a state where nothing is lacking. That's the metaphor here. Where we're home in God, one with God. Verbal math, remember? One with. Nothing's lacking. We can't lack anything. And that is our natural state. The Son of God lacks nothing. We cannot lack anything. Yet we've believed, apparently, that we can. We don't have to continue to believe in lack or separation. You don't have to continue to believe in lack or separation unless you choose to. It's a choice. Remember, we have this choice between perfect love and fear, between God and the ego. We have a choice. Now, again, when we're saying choose love, it's perfect love, the love of God, not what passes for love here in the world, which is what the Course refers to as a special relationship, like a marriage. Even if it's very happy, I'm very happily married, it's a special relationship. It's between exactly two people. May not be fun to think of it this way, but it is, in fact, a limitation, isn't it? Love simply extends itself, perfect love. That's what we're being invited to choose. And we don't have to continue to believe in our own psychodrama unless we choose to. It's a choice that you make yourself. I don't make it for you. Why would I do that? Yeah, no thanks. Each of us makes that choice ourselves, moment to moment. And the spiritual path is like waking up from a dream. So the separation question, again, it's perceived, it's apparent, it's non-existent. We've never separated from our source, yet here comes the ego mind. It's going to happen to all of us on the path, attempting to go back in time, which doesn't exist, to the point where that supposedly happened and ask, why did we do this? What were we possibly thinking? Spirituality, deep spirituality, can't be really accessed by the conscious mind. Who we are cannot be accessed by the conscious mind. It cannot be accessed by the same space-time limitations of thinking that govern the world. That is the problem. The answer is beyond the problem. Who we are is beyond concepts, it's beyond all words, and it's beyond question. This is important. It's beyond question. It's who we are. So the thinking mind can't answer the question, how did the separation happen? It never did. The more we accept that for ourselves, it may seem paradoxical, but the more fluid and easier all of this path becomes. We're invited throughout A Course in Miracles to accept atonement for ourselves, accept atonement for ourselves, accept that the separation never occurred. Isn't that liberating? Ideas leave not their source. So how did I get here? Well, this is not here. If there's no space or time, then there's no pinpoint location relative to other locations, is there? God's love, God himself, is total and all-encompassing. That is the very first part of A Course in Miracles. The introduction tells us that what is all-encompassing can have no opposite, can it? Let's think about that as we wrap up here. What's all-encompassing has no opposite. It can't have an opposite because it is everything. And yes, it's no thing at all. It simply is. Who we are is beyond all concepts. Yet, even here in the world of psychodrama and divisive politics and mortgages and bills and email, right? Check yours yet today, right? All that fun stuff. Even in that world, we can experience who we are. We can experience truth that can't be understood by the intellectual mind. It can't be contemplated or questioned by the intellectual mind, but it can be experienced. Now that is powerful. So, as always, I appreciate your commitment to your spiritual practice. That's foundational. That's the most important thing that you can bring to this world. And it doesn't make any difference where you live or how old you are, what you do for work in the world. It doesn't make any difference. That's the most important thing that you can bring, is your own commitment to practice. So I invite you to sit with these ideas. I invite you to practice these ideas. And if I can be of assistance to you in any way, please feel welcome to reach out. And the subscription button's right down here. That's the little red arrow. I'd love to have you join us here. And thank you so much for tuning in. And again, for your commitment to truth. Very powerful indeed. We'll talk to you soon.